I don't need to wear these headphones. I don't have any good reason to be wearing them. They're not like helping me speak to you. I don't need to hear anything. I don't need to wear these headphones, but I'm wearing them because they're so comfortable. I absolutely love these headphones. I just got them recently. Arguably, I shouldn't have bought them. I should arguably have used the money to like feed my child and the cat. But I bought these a while ago. Sennheiser. It's like wearing a couch, two couches, a perfect little couch for each ear. Oh my goodness me! And I just realised before I went on air that I don't need to be wearing them, but I think I'm just gonna wear them. Hello, welcome to my little YouTube channel, my little corner of the internet. My name's Adam Sutherland. I'm a fiddle player from the Highlands of Scotland originally, and now based somewhere else. And I'm broadcasting to you from my little shed somewhere in the aforementioned Scotland. And yeah, I'm a student of music and other stuff as well, but music's the thing that pays the bills for me so far. That may stop one day. I never take that for granted. But yeah, I'm a student of music, and I didn't ever set out to be someone who writes music. I didn't have like a ideal of I will be a composer, and that's what I'll try and be. I just found out that I was easily excitable by new musical little flurries of melody. And yeah, I'm just sharing what I've found out so far, because I'm still learning, I hope. I'm just sharing what I've learned so far about on my musical journey with anyone who will listen, and I'm hacking into year 2 of doing this. And yeah, this is a live stream, but it's also going to be up on the internet forever, as long as we have internet. So come and say hi in the comments if you're in real time, or just leave a comment if you're in the future. This week, it's currently at the time of this filming, it's the 12th of March 2026, and I'm going to look at a tune written by just a fabulous musician and a fabulous person, a wonderful chap called Andy Thorburn, who I just feel like if there was a book about his life, you would want to read it. 2 reasons why I'm going to do a tune of Andy's this week. One is it's just the Jig of the Clan Beag is the name of the tune. It's one of my favourite tunes ever, for reasons that I will get into. And the other one is I saw him yesterday by chance, and I haven't seen him for like at least a year. I spotted him, and I feel like I may have had that feeling of spotting him. Was kind of like, I imagine what the feeling would be like if you're a really keen like bird watcher or ornithologist, and you see a really rare specimen, and you go, oh. But rather than take a photo of him in Inverness train station, I snuck up on him and I tickled him, and we had a probably quite strange conversation in terms of what else was going on chat-wise in Inverness railway station, but not a strange conversation for us, because Andy and me have our own language. Why do Andy Thorburn and me have our own language? Well, it goes back to when I used to play regularly with the Peatbog Fairies, who you must check out if you haven't already. Fabulous band from the Isle of Skye, and I was very happy to be on the road with them for many years full time. And Andy Thorburn filled in playing keyboard, because he's a pianist and composer. He filled in playing keyboard for a tour, and we were touring around England, and I remember sitting next to him in the back of this van on a hot summer's day, and he had his newspaper up, and he was reading the newspaper, and he suddenly just put the paper down and started exclaiming about what he was reading. And what he was reading was an article about a child who was like a savant kind of genius in terms of languages, and he'd learned, I forget how many languages by the age of like 7 or 8 or something. He'd learned loads of languages and was now writing his own languages. And Andy, when he read that particular bit of the article, it all got too much for him, so he thrust the newspaper down and started sharing his thoughts with the van of Peatbog Fairies musicians. He started questioning, and I'm not going to get it word for word, but it was something along the lines of, what the hell does that sound like? Your own language? And then Andy answered his own question by inventing his own language, which to this day is one of the funnier things I personally have ever beholded, whatever. It's absolutely hilarious, and I'll try and speak some of Andy's language, which I personally refer to as Thorburnese. His name is Andy Thorburn. It's very guttural. It makes judicious use of the back throat with an almost kind of Mongolian throat singing element, and I can't believe that I'm about to try and communicate to you in Thorburnese or Thorburnesque, but I'll do my best. And Andy, if you're watching, my apologies for any like syntax errors or any culturally unaware accents, but it's kind of like I believe that was Andy's first words in Thorburnese, and this was just like funny, I thought. And we just proceeded to spend the rest of the van journey inventing our own language, this guttural language, and making up words. He's a character. And then I do remember later that night after the gig, in this wee hall, I think it was somewhere in like the southwest of England, in Cornwall, I think somewhere. We started speaking our language, and the house lights were up, and people were like resetting the hall and stacking tables and chairs. And me and Andy were just like fully going for it with this language. And I remember noticing that some of the people around us, like the venue owners, festival organizers, they seemed to be expressing discomfort with their facial muscles. And we were just having such a fun time that it gave me cause to just stop for a second and think, maybe this is not actually that cool for those around us. Anyway, that's my brief introduction to Andy Thorburn. I saw him yesterday at Inverness train station, so ran up to him and we communicated fluently in Thorburnese in Inverness train station. Yeah, Andy's written some fantastic pieces of music. He's got a beautiful album of him playing the piano. The album's called Piano. He's had a very long and established career as an educator. He's an incredible teacher and communicator. He's taught at Plockton School of Excellence for very many years. And as a young musician in my 20s, Andy was very supportive, which I needed and was grateful for at that age, and just really enthusiastic about my ideas. But that's typical of him, because he was just enthusiastic about people's ideas. It wasn't just me. He is just an enthusiastic person. Probably his most famous tune is Marnie Swanson of the Grey Coast, which is very well known in Scotland and probably abroad. A beautiful slow air. But I'm not going to play that one for you today. I might do that one another week. I'm going to play the Jig of the Clan Beag. And I believe both the Jig of the Clan Beag and Marnie Swanson of the Grey Coast were composed by Andy as part of his larger job of being a composer for some theatre. And he's worked extensively in theatre, and Marnie Swanson was a fictional character, and the Clan Beag. The Beg is the Gaelic for little. It's the little people, the jig of the little people, and I'm afraid I don't know any more about this particular play that this was written in. And just give me 1 second, I'm looking at some comments coming in my live stream. Bob Harty, hey Bob, what's up? How are you? Hi. Am I going to reply to you? Yeah, right now, live. I look nice. That's very kind. Thank you. Give me some more clues as to where you are in the world. And don't be insulted if I'm not totally sure who you are. Or maybe you should be insulted, because I should know. But I'm going to play the jig of the Clan Beag. It's a jig in E minor. And the first part is mischievous. It starts off. And the second part. So that's it. Sneaky triples. Yeah, it's... I don't know another tune that goes 3 notes of the same pitch, followed by another 3 notes. It's almost not a tune. And what I love about this tune in terms of interpreting it is you don't have to do each time. You can kind of go, and in the context of the tune with Andy Thorburn bopping away, the tune still keeps its energy going, doing those things by going do be do do instead of do la boodly boodly baloo. Doesn't lose the sense of progress. So or you can do barrels on them. I think I've just realised that that's what Michael Bishop's referring to. Also, hello Michael Bishop, one of my most solid supporters here on YouTube and also on Patreon. Thank you, Michael. There's just lots you can do with that from a kind of interpreting point of view. And Andy and me, when we play this, and we haven't played together for a long time, we take that idea, which I think Andy does in his left hand with a bass line. We make a feature of that. It's like we're just kids playing with toys. And when I say we, I don't just mean Andy and me. I just mean anyone who does music all the time with fun being kind of at the front. You're just like having fun. So how much fun can you have with doodle 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 doodle? And to me the answer is lots. And I remember thinking a long time ago, how could we develop that? And there's the ways that I've just mentioned, you know. But also there's one time when we play it around, maybe like third or fourth time. Not the first time. The first time you're just like establishing the tune for anyone listening. So you can just take that and run with it. And you can go that last note. You can replace that. And you would just like replace an A part with some kind of journey. And then the thing that I quite like to do, and Andy and me quite like to do, is after a different A part of not just this tune but any tune, our mad rambling A part is to slam back into the B part with just the tune, the B part of the tune. And this B part is so strong. And I'm making lots of like mistakes and scrappy notes all over the place, because that's what I do quite a lot of the time. I'll just talk a bit more about the key this is in. It's an E minor, but it's got C sharps. It's just a wonderful version of E minor, having that sixth of the scale be a semitone higher. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Normally in E minor, that just opens up so much difference, so much possibility, because the C sharp, let's face it, is quite happy. Chordally, if you're interested, there's lots of options for an A major chord. So that phrase, the first phrase, the B part, going from B to E a lot. strongly suggesting kind of anything with E's and B's, lots of is E minor, E, B, E in this key. And then the C sharps, we've got this A to E, 2 notes a fifth apart. And I feel like I just say the same things a lot of the time, but that's because the same themes keep coming up. The second part is nothing like the first part. Sorry about my phone going off. I can't seem to work it. I have to stop it from interrupting things. The first part is rhythmically da-ba-dee 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 da-ba-dee. And the second part dip dab dab dum. So the first part's like groups of threes, 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a 2 and a. The second one's dab 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 dum. That's groups of twos, 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2 2 dab dum. And it's the second part. It just did more of the tune. I think would just be boring. Like the first part goes, and the second part also does that. Even if it was different notes, it would just be too much of the same thing. So the first part rhythmically, the second part, whoa, stronger, both strong rhythms. The second one, ba 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 bam. And I think the reason that is so satisfying is because you've established a psychological baseline. If you know that term, it's like, I think they use it in psychology. It's like someone's baseline is like, everyone has, if I get this right, everyone has different kind of body language, individual things that they do. We all have these things that we all do, but I believe if you're trying to read body language, you need to understand what someone's kind of baseline is. So like if someone's always waving their hands in the air to make a point, then if you look at them and say, oh, they're waving their hands in the air, they're stressed, then they might not be stressed because they're always waving their hands in the air. Whereas someone who never waves their hands in the air, but in this one occasion is waving their hands in the air, then you might say, okay, they've departed from their psychological baseline, so it's more of a contrast. Bear with me, please. When you have a first part of a tune that does one thing a lot, you've established a kind of psychological baseline. This is just my theory, right? This is not like, I'm not a psychologist. This is, for what it's worth, this is just, I guess you could even say, conjecture. This is just my own observations, and I'm always open to them being proven wrong. In fact, I'm trying to prove myself wrong all the time. But I think if you have a theme or a series of limitations on the first part, then as a listener you get into, alright, that's what this is going to do. So when the second part departs from that, does something different, it's more of a, whoa, we've departed from our baseline. And I just had a notification on my newly updated computer which says, add effects using hand gestures. Turn on reactions to express yourself with a hand gesture. No. So this first part establishes a psychological baseline, which is not what the second part does. Second part, dagga 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 dagga. That's 1 2 1 2 1 2. It's also very melodically. That's a big amount of big amount of pitch change in a small amount of time. Whereas the first part, pitch wise, Small amount of pitch variation over quite a long period of time. Second part, large amount of pitch variation, larger amount of pitch variation, short amount of time. First part. So that's 2 bars of each. First part, 2 bars. Same amount of time in the B part, you've gone. So yeah, second part departs from the first part and does so in a way that's like it ups the game by cramming in dag 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 dum with more rhythmic, faster rhythms, not fast, more aggressive rhythms, bab dab dab baba da baba dum instead of baba da daba da daba da daba da. More spiky moments, dagga 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 dum, and huger differences. That is a contrast. So yeah, if the second part was just more doodly 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 doodly, even if it was different notes, it just wouldn't be so cool, in my opinion. I don't know if Andy thinks about it quite as deliberately as this, or if he just kind of intuitively feels a need to get away from what he's done. And that's the thing, when you've written the first bit of a tune and it's a thing, whatever it is, it's a psychological musical baseline, and you found it and you're enjoying it. It's scary if you're trying to find a B part to like abandon that, because you feel like you've found something that's working, and you might feel like just ditching that entirely for your B part is not something you want to do, because you've got a first part working, so let's just maybe do more of that for the second part. And yeah, there's tunes where that actually totally works, but not many of them. So this is what happens here. So yeah, writing your tunes, whatever your first part is, what is it doing? What is the baseline that you've created? And then I don't know if you can still hear me. My camera's gone. I think you might still be able to hear me. My camera's run out of batteries because I am nailing it. I'm going to plug in my camera. Let's see if this works. Alright, so I'm going to assume you can still hear me, and you're now just looking at a black screen, marveling at the level of professionalism achieved by me in this video. I've turned on my camera. Let's see if that works again. In the meantime, stick with me. Yeah, Michael Bishop, you can hear me. Radio, you can still hear me. Oh, hey Gavin. Alright, Michael Bishop, what would you look for would you look for variations before starting, or develop them during playing? Before starting, when you say before starting, tell me more about what you mean by that. Do you mean like before starting playing? You mean like before I start playing, do I think of how would I do this? I'm not going to say no to anything. I'm not going to say I never do that. Because if I decide I only have a small number of ways of doing things, am I back? Can you see me? I'm always trying to find new ways of doing things. I'm always prepared to tear up the rule book for how I've done things. And that comes from a place of fear. Because I am afraid of losing the excitement of writing a new tune. So for me, I'm more afraid of not doing that, and I would rather tear things up and look again. Okay, the camera seems to be back. I'm going to look at some of the comments here. Thank you both, Michael and Gavin, for keeping me updated on the latest tech malfunction. Before playing for the first time, so Michael's asking me, would I look for variations before playing for the very first time? So you're asking me if like I've got a tune and I've never played it before. I've just realised I can take my headphones off. I'm boiling. I think you need to be wearing them. No, I haven't done that so far. I usually start playing a tune and maybe get to know it. When I was younger and a lot more impulsive and impatient, I would maybe start varying tunes first time I played them. And in fact, you've just reminded me of my audition for what was at the time called the RSAMD, the Royal Scottish Academy of Music and Drama. I auditioned for that at the age of 18. Actually, I was 17 when I auditioned, down from Inverness to Glasgow, and I was asked to play a tune by the wonderful musician and human being and educator Ian Fraser. Ian asked me to play a tune, and I recall making the decision to, probably not first time round playing it, but second time round, to just take a bit of a leap and change the tune a bit, which wasn't what I was asked to do. I was asked, you're auditioning for this academic institution, can we hear you play this tune? So I played it and just made some bit of it a bit different. And I feel like with not every teacher, not every educator, that would have gone down well, and that may have sealed the deal for me not getting in. But Ian, I think he liked it. I think he liked not necessarily what I played, but I think he liked the fact that I just immediately started like guddling around, messing with it. And I've never asked him, but I feel like that may have helped secure me a place in the RSAMD. It's now the Royal Conservatoire of Scotland. Fantastic place with some pretty amazing musicians teaching there. Some good friends of mine. The Royal Conservatoire of Scotland, outstanding. So that's kind of my answer to your question, Michael. Would I ever vary stuff? Not too much these days, but I never say no. But if I'm varying something, I'm just usually like looking for what is the tune already doing, and can I like go with what it's doing and maybe do what it's doing but in a slightly different way. So it's not just like, here's the tune, I'm just gonna slap something that I fancy playing on top of it and make it all about me. I prefer to listen to what the tune's already doing and almost like have an imaginary conversation with the composer, and if there was that conversation taking place, then the words would be, oh, I see what you did there. Like, for example, Andy Thorburn, doodle 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 doodle, I see what you did there, I hear you, I feel it, and I'm going to just say, what about? Doodle 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 doodle. So I'm kind of like riffing with the composer. That's my personal preference, rather than doing some mad lick that's just got nothing to do with the tune. I don't particularly like that style of doing stuff, but there's always exceptions, and I'm sure there's many times that I have done that. So there we go. A couple more comments. Let me just see. Gavin's just letting me know that I am back. It's a new one. I'm also seeing there's a few more folk tuned in since we started, so hello. And if you have any more questions about Andy Thorburn, You should go and look him up. Go and look up Andy Thorburn, his album Piano. You may already know his gorgeous melody, Marnie Swanson of the Grey Coast. And yeah, this week I've been looking at the jig of the Clan Beag. All because, as I said at the start, Andy Thorburn's an incredibly inspiring musician. I've got a lot of fond memories of being with him, and I met him yesterday at Inverness train station, and we decided to speak in Thorburnese, our language that, well, he mostly made up. And I've got a funny feeling that at least one of the people watching this tonight has got their own stories about Andy Thorburn. If Mark Clement is watching this, then Mark's probably got many more stories about Andy Thorburn than I have, because Mark Clement and Andy Thorburn were the original backline, if that's the right word, rhythm section, chord section for the band Blazing Fiddles. Andy Thorburn and Mark Clement, right back at the start there, the OGs, and the two of them, incredible team. And I'm going to just finish off now with something that Andy and me invented in a pub session in Dunvegan in the north of Skye when we were there, doing some recording with a band that probably doesn't really exist anymore, but you never know, called Babelfish. Disclaimer, I'm aware that there's actually other bands on planet Earth and maybe other planets called Babelfish, but we were one of them. Andy Thorburn on keys, Ian Copeland on drums, John Somerville on the accordion, Bo Jingham on the flute, and on words, poetry, the fabulous Jonathan Jock Urquhart. Babelfish, we went to do some recording up there in Skye and Dunvegan at Ian Copeland's studio, and I believe Sean Purser was there. Sean used to be the producer for Radio Scotland's Travelling Folk, and I think he came with us and we did a special session. And in this session, I think on the way up we'd been listening to Take the Floor. I remember thinking, every single set on Take the Floor, which is a wonderful radio show presented by Gary Innes, they all finish with, and quite often they start with a chord, you know. And they finish with that. And I'd been listening to Take the Floor, and this is back when I think when Robbie Shepherd was the presenter. And I remember thinking, why not maybe just one time finish with a chord that's not in the same key as the tune you were just playing? So let's say they were playing that tune. So that tune was an A, and I finished the chord which was as far away from A as you can get, E flat. And yeah, and that ending started life then. It became known as the Dunvegan, where in this session, every single set that we played, after trying it once for the crack, after I think I said, let's just play an E flat chord after this set of tunes in A, and everyone laughed about it. Ha ha ha, how silly. We then did an E flat chord for every single set of tunes that night. And then that lived on beyond that and just became known as the Dunvegan. So the Dunvegan is an E flat major chord regardless of what key you've just been playing in. And Andy Thorburn's last ever gig with Blazing Fiddles. I was at, and was it Andy's last? Yes, it was. I think. I think it was possibly Anna Massey playing guitar for this. Forgive me if I'm wrong, but it was in the ABC, which was a beautiful venue in Glasgow city centre. It sadly burned down a small number of years ago, and is, yeah, not in great shape actually. That whole bit of Sauchiehall Street in Glasgow, but I was in the ABC and I saw Andy Thorburn's last ever moment with Blazing Fiddles. They'd done the final set, they'd done the encore, they'd done the second encore, and I was watching, and I just looked at him and I just thought, I think he's gonna do it. And Andy Thorburn's last ever sound that he made with Blazing Fiddles, after being in the band for many years and being an integral part of their sound, was an E flat major chord, the Dunvegan, and the tune before that was not in E flat, and I whooped and screamed and shouted with absolute delight. And maybe it was Mark Clement playing guitar. Mark, please forgive me if I've got that wrong. It was, and then he walked off, and I just was like, I know what that means. I know what it means for you, that you've just played your last chord with this band, and I'm watching you walk off the stage, and I know that you decided to finish off with the Dunvegan, and I just loved that. That was magical. A couple more comments before I wind this live stream up. Was Akatsukira, hello. Was the Babelfish band made up of Douglas Adams fans? There is an alert follower. We are all Douglas Adams fans. Douglas Adams being the author of The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. And I feel like some of you will probably be well aware of that. And the Babelfish, if I get this right, was a small fish, fictional fish, which, if you were traveling the universe, would be your friend in terms of helping you to understand any language in the universe, because all you had to do to understand what anyone was saying from anywhere was to insert this small fish into your ear, and you could magically have whatever they were saying translated into your tongue. Doubtless a nod to the Tower of Babel and such things like that. And Babelfish, I believe, came out because we believed music to be the universal communicator. We have one album, you can find it online, called International Disgrace, which was a reference to some violent politics going on in a certain part of the world, which very sadly at the time of making of this video does not seem to have disappeared in any way. But I'm not going to get into politics other than to say international disgrace still applies. So there we go. I'm going to finish off there. Thank you all for tuning in. If you're in the live stream, thank you for coming and watching my video. If you're in the future, thank you for your patience with me having my latest tech error. So thank you, Bob Harty. Thank you, Michael Bishop. Thank you, Gavin Maxwell. Again, a very solid supporter of me on YouTube and on Patreon. Thank you very much, Michael and Gavin. And thank you, Akatsukira. Please tell me if I'm pronouncing that wrong. I'm sure I am. And finally, Michael Bishop says he loves that chord. Michael suggested that I could be finishing my live streams with a bit of music. I've been recently starting them with a kind of like 20th Century Fox style version of the 4 notes from my most famous tune, The Road to Erigi. And Michael suggested I should have something else for the end, and I think, Michael, what would you think Maybe I should be making a big orchestral version of the Dunvegan. Yeah, I think that's a goer. All right, cool. So this was my tribute, I guess, to Andy Thorburn. Please check out Andy Thorburn's music. Check out his album Piano. I'm sure you can find that somewhere online. And just be aware of, look up Marnie Swanson of the Grey Coast. That's a tune. That's probably his best known tune. You can hear that being recorded by quite a few different folk. I feel like Duncan Chisholm's recorded it. I feel like there's a version perhaps of Bruce McGregor playing it. But as always, I'd recommend going and listening to the composer themselves as a starting point. So yeah, I want to thank you all for tuning in. That's been 50 minutes of me waffling on, but it's easy to waffle on when your subject matter is Andy Thorburn. So yeah, thank you all very much. I have one more comment. Love my tune Eroticon 6, by the way. Thank you, Akatsukira. I appreciate that very much. Maybe I'll do a wee video on that tune some other week. So yeah, I'm going to say goodbye, and I'm going to go and have a cup of tea. So yeah, good luck with your tune writing. Again, finally, check out Andy Thorburn, and I will say goodbye. Goodbye.